what makes a Jurassic action sequence Jurassic?
Great question. I feel like in Jurassic Park, at least the first three, what they did a great job is in those films were kind of making them more horror centric, more intimate, more animalistic, and scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you look at Ellie Sattler in the first movie saying, "Mr. Hammond, I think we're back in business," and then boom, what pops out, right?
Welcome back to Dino Park Media. My name is Samuel, and today I have once again with me Matt Heuel, and he's just great for the channel. Matt, why don't you go ahead and say hello?
Hey Samuel, it's great to be on again, man. Thank you so much for having me on. I can't wait to talk to Jurassic Park. Let's do it, bro.
Absolutely. And so Matt, you're joining me today. We're talking about the favorite action sequences that we have of Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. And I mean, the Jurassic Park series as a whole, Jurassic series, is definitely built upon dinosaurs. I mean, if there's one thing that somebody immediately thinks of when they think of Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, they immediately think of dinosaurs. But Jurassic Park and World would not be what it is today without the action sequences within the movies. And so, well, we're going to break that down a little bit. And starting off with the first question, what are your favorite action sequences from the Jurassic franchise, from either the original trilogy or the new Jurassic World movies? What are your favorite action sequences?
Ooh, dude, my favorite by far is the Jurassic World final duel, where you see Claire open, say, "Hey, open paddock 9." All of a sudden, you see Rexy come out. You see the final duel. That is by far the coolest action sequence in Jurassic Park history, in cinema history. I love it, at least for me. I think that the Lost World gave us a great sort of more suspenseful sequence, which the trailer scene was, and Eddie's death.
Yeah.
That was a really cool scene. I love the suspense and the horror element that Lost World had to it.
Yes.
And you just feel for Eddie when he gets, split in two. But it's an amazing sequence. It's Spielberg at his peak for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with you on that Jurassic World final duel between Rexy, the Indominus, and then also Blue, making her grand reveal at the end. She's not dead, but
right,
yeah. And then coming in with that Lost World theme, it's so beautiful. But I also believe that that action sequence
IMAX too. It was great.
Oh, dude, I can't imagine how amazing that would be. But when you look at the movie or that sequence, the I-Rex versus T-Rex and Raptor sequence at the end of Jurassic World, that sequence is amazing. But I believe that it's amazing because of the fact that it builds off of nostalgia for the first movie. And, well, I mean, not just the first movie, but also then, of course, you have the Lost World music a little bit when Blue comes back on the scene. But
and Jurassic Park 3, like a rematch for a T-Rex in a way, but an I-Rex this time. Yeah,
to redeem it. And but then, I mean, so like I think you're 100% correct with the Jurassic World duel being super iconic, and it's definitely one of my favorites too. And I also like that Lost World one a lot too, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that too in a little bit. But I think my personal favorite action sequence, and I know that it's not the most in-depth or even the most like gripping as far as action goes, is actually from the original Jurassic Park, which is the final showdown between the Raptors and Rexy herself. Because
there is suspense in that as well. I mean, you have all the main characters just cornered by the Raptors, as Grant stated earlier in the film, right? The 6-foot turkey kid. And now it comes in fruition, and it's like, oh shoot, what's gonna happen? Boom.
Yep. And then and the T-Rex just bursting in there, and then that final iconic moment where Rexy kills the last raptor,
The
throwing
big
it against the T-Rex, other T-Rex skeleton, fossil skeleton, turning around, roaring while "When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth" banner like falls down in front of her. I'm actually looking at a little like desk toy statue that I have of that exact moment. It's just so
Nice.
iconic, and I believe
Absolutely.
that action is kind of what set up the standard of what
I
Jurassic
missed that roar, by
Park.
the way, dude. I missed that roar so much.
That like trumpet type of roar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it sounds like a train mixed with a trumpet, and it's amazing.
The original female roar, for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I mean, I really appreciate the iconic nature of that last battle in Jurassic Park 1, and I believe that's also what kind of builds up the suspense and what helps me appreciate the final duel between I-Rex and the T-Rex and Blue in Jurassic World all the more, because of the fact that it emulates the first.
It's an echo.
So much. An echo. It's like poetry. It really rhymes. But, I mean, we can talk about our favorite sequences all day, but we got to break down why they're important. So our second question, what makes the action sequences in Jurassic Park and Jurassic World so unique to the franchise? Like, why is the action in the Jurassic franchise so specific? How is it so specific to these movies? You know, what makes a Jurassic action sequence Jurassic?
Great question. I feel like in Jurassic Park, at least the first three, what they did a great job is in those films were kind of making them more horror centric, more intimate, more animalistic and scary. And I feel like if you look at Ellie Sattler in the first movie saying, "Mr. Hammond, I think we're back in business," and then boom, what pops out, right?
Yep.
And you have all these cool action sequences, like say in Jurassic Park 3, just for example, with the pteranodons and how sort of horror-centric that was. Sort of like an alien-looking figure walking out in the mist in front of Eric Kirby. And then you have another suspenseful sequence, of course, in The Lost World, where it's all rainy and meek and just dirty. And then you see the two T-Rexes come out, push the trailer down. The suspense with Sarah Harding, almost about to fall off, to her immediate death. That suspense is second to none. That's the best in the franchise, in my opinion. And that's what separates it from sort of like a monster movie, whereas the action sequences aren't really relied on like one-on-one battles,
right?
Like monster battles. They're more so, they're just action mixed in with a little bit of a horror element that I think Spielberg and to give Joe Johnston some credit as well, did in those first three.
No, I think you're nailing the point there on the head, because especially because you hear a lot of the comparisons of awe and wonder versus horror and chaos. And so like that was what the whole first movie and even the first book, I think that's I've seen some interviews where
the Dino scene, absolutely
right, where the comparison games even made for the original book of Jurassic Park by why can't I think of his name? Thank you.
Oh, Mike. Yeah.
There we go. It just escaped me for a moment. But there was always in the film creator's minds, in Spielberg's mind when he was making the movie, there has to first be awe and wonder of looking at these animals and just seeing the majesty of seeing a creature come back from being dead all these years, and then you come back and then it goes to the idea of, whoa, these creatures have been dead for so long, and you just throw them back into the mix. What could happen? And then
what could we possibly expect?
What could you possibly expect? And then you have the horror element, which is the fact that these are dinosaurs that are extremely dangerous and you can't just immediately throw one into the mix and go like, oh, we're going to know how to handle it. And so I think you're 100% correct. When it comes to action sequences, you have to be able to, because like the Jurassic franchise was not founded on action sequences. I do believe Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom tried to Jurassic World even and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom both put forward action, I think, maybe even in front of horror, especially Fallen Kingdom. I know that they were trying to make the Indoraptors super skulky and freaky, but I'm pretty sure the action sequences were kind of like the forefront still. There's still some horror elements in Fallen Kingdom, but specifically when you go back to Jurassic Park 1, it was 100% based off of awe and wonder and then horror and chaos. And then whatever action helped prop up that second idea of horror and chaos, that is what made a good action sequence for the Jurassic franchise. And I think Jurassic World did a pretty good job at being able to have a couple moments like that, specifically with like the lead up to when the kids are in the gyrosphere and then the Indominus Rex is like just like looming behind them, and then you see the reflection of its teeth in the glass of the gyrosphere.
That was pretty good. That was pretty scary.
And then it leads into a horror element, and then when it's attacking the kids, when it's like shoving, it has the gyrosphere in its jaws, and the I-Rex is just shoving it into the ground over and over again. Like you kind of know, if you've watched Jurassic films, the kids aren't going to die, but you're still like,
you still feel something.
You still feel something. So the action sequences, they have to be tied to that horror element, to that extreme thrill of we don't know what might happen. Somebody's life might end here. It's not just like
I'll give a second compliment to Jurassic World as well. There was one scene in specific with Masrani and his death where the Pteranodons came in. I thought that was very Jurassic Park, even though it was still not on quite the same level. It was a little bit more subpar, but I did have Jurassic vibes in that scene with the Pteranodons. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like that it wasn't necessarily built off of horror as much as it was built off of chaos. And I think that is also a huge aspect of what needs to happen and what needs to be accounted for in action sequences, because like the I-Rex the I-Rex is the embodiment of chaos, something that cannot be controlled in Jurassic World, and why the whole park gets turned upside down. And then when it goes into the birdcage and lets out all the Pteranodons, that's the chaotic element leading into an action sequence. So I think you're 100% correct. Like we have horror and chaos that need to make an iconic Jurassic World action sequence. But moving on, because there's so much to go over. Do you think that the Jurassic World movies have been able to keep the same feel? And this is in the same vein of what we're talking about. Do you think that the Jurassic World movies, the new ones, have been able to keep the same feel of action from the original Jurassic Park trilogy?
I would say for the most part, no. But I do think they've been fun. I think that Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, as much as I think Fallen Kingdom is just an okay film, I still think it has some fun elements. But Jurassic World in specific, the only scene I can think of that really made me go, okay, yeah, was Zara's death, because that was very like unpredictable, and it got a lot of backlash. And that's what I want out of a Jurassic Park film, is like, well, anybody can die. It's not just the bad guys. And I feel like Fallen Kingdom was like, okay, well, Zara death was a no-no. Let's not kill off any sort of character that is not deserving of the death. But that kind of takes away from Lost World when Eddie Carr died in his car by the two T-Rexes. Anything can happen. And as sad as that scene is, it's my favorite scene in all the franchise, because it hits you in the gut. And it just makes you feel that fear, and it makes you feel like, wow, that just happened. Okay. Yeah. And I didn't really get that with the 2015 or 18 films, but they were fun, for sure.
I'll completely agree with you on that level of not ever being able to get to a point where it was on that same level of unpredictability. I completely agree with you on that. And for the most part, I would agree with you that the overall feel of the movies are pretty different. I think Jurassic Park and Jurassic World have probably the closest feels of any two movies out of the 5 movies that we've had so far, compared to any of the other ones. Like a lot of people try to make Lost World and Fallen Kingdom likenings, but I think, like you said, those movies are pretty different. Fallen Kingdom, even though it tries to go into the darker horror aspects of some things, I think that it ended up just being mostly action. and just another action film. Whereas like Lost World really went into like the darkness, the greed and stuff like that. It wasn't just the mustache twirling villains of like, we're gonna make money on the black market, but
20 millions.
Yeah,
right?
20 millions. But
no
that's
thanks.
fantastic. Yeah, but I think Jurassic World specifically was able to emulate a lot of that Jurassic feel when it came to the action. So trying to let's try to distance ourselves from just the overall feel, but go straight to the action sequences. I do believe that Jurassic World had some similarities to the original trilogy. Specifically, if you look at Jurassic Park 3, a lot of it was just a Spinosaurus chasing down the people, chasing down the humans, and then just like trying to chomp on anything that it can get within its bite. And you see that a lot echoed in the I-Rex. Like a lot of what if you can say characterization, of this hybrid animal,
Right.
But the I-Rex, I believe, had a lot of similarities to the Spinosaurus, and the fact that it's one mode is kill, and the Spinosaurus seemed to have that same kind of motivation of I just need to kill, and so I think it was a little bit more animalistic. Like maybe it wanted to kill because it wanted to just keep people away from its turf, but it wasn't just protecting its turf like the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the buck and the doe in the in Lost World, trying to just protect its area and protect its young. It was like, this whole island's mine. But I think that the I-Rex scenes with that kind of action had a lot of similarities to the original Jurassic Park trilogy, but I do believe that it also brought a lot of new things about. You would never see two dinosaurs working with each other to attack another one, specifically it's Rexy and Blue. You would never see them working together. I mean, you would probably watch one dinosaur like wait for somebody to die and then go in after the winner, like if we're going purely animalistic. But I think Fallen Kingdom though definitely is a huge divergence from the original action sequences that you see in the original trilogy, because it's just a lot of action. It's a lot of heart-pacing stuff, and it's cool. It's cool to watch. I like people running away from pyroclastic flow. That's pretty cool, and the pyroclastic cloud. Even if Owen Grady should have been burnt to a crisp, it's besides the point.
Yeah, his hand at least, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But you see them like in the gyrosphere, and then they go into the water. That was just really cool action, and I think that it was something that was maybe a little forced, like filmmakers were forced to do, because you can't just use the same formula and keep on putting out the same thing over and over again. We saw that with Transformers, and even though they make a lot of money, now they've become known as the butt of every cinematic joke.
Oh, absolutely.
Even though the first Transformers movie was pretty decent, and the most recent Bumblebee was amazing, Bumblebee gets no credit because it's still living in the shadow of the dung heap that is the middle four movies. And so I think that in order to avoid that kind of just copy and paste scenario in the Jurassic films, I think Trevorrow and J.A. Boyana wanted to go in a different direction by let's evolve the action, and I think that they did a pretty decent job with that.
Yeah, I want to comment on that. I think that to defend Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom a little bit, I think that Owen Grady's character did say to Masrani and to Claire that isolated animals aren't always the most, they're not safe, right? They're usually, they're going to act a little bit more predator than say how the T-Rex was in '93.
Yep.
So, and as well as the Indoraptor, it didn't really get that care, that special care that the Rex did, or even the Velociraptors did. Mm-hmm. Those two hybrids were freaks of nature, but also freaks of their own paradigm that the workers created for them.
That's so true.
So when you go into the scene in Fallen Kingdom in specific, where you see the gyrosphere in the water, right? And you see all the dinosaurs falling down. You see Franklin and you see Claire trying to get out. And it's sort of reminiscent to Lost World with glass breaking and falling off a cliff.
Right.
So that's a little Lost World vibe, but you have Chris Pratt kind of saving the day. And And I think in retrospect, it was an okay scene. I think it could have been handled a little bit better, at least for my taste, at least something more original, to make it more exciting. But I still think there's room for improvement. And I'm a huge Colin Trevorrow fan, and I think that Dominion, I think that he will deliver.
I do too.
Absolutely deliver.
Absolutely. And I mean, dude, I completely agree with what you said. Like, all of that was really good stuff, and I do.
Thank you.
I too agree that Colin Trevorrow, top notch. He knows what makes a good movie, and I believe that Dominion's going to be good. But when it comes back to the Jurassic action, what sets Jurassic movies' action sequences apart from monster movies like King Kong and Godzilla? Because I mean, a lot of people have made a lot of likenings. I mean, even the first movie, you know, like when they're going through the Jurassic Park gates, even Malcolm goes, "What do they got in there, King Kong?" You know, like you have the immediate likening of like monster movies to this.
Yeah.
But and then also like if you look at the subtitles for the Japanese guys were saying in Lost World, I moved here from Tokyo to get away from this stuff. You know, talking about Godzilla, but this isn't. Exactly, but this isn't generic monster movie stuff. Like the Jurassic franchise is different, and the action sequences, they're much different than just King Kong and Godzilla. But why is that? Why would you say that Jurassic movies are different than just a generic monster movie?
I think that you and me hit on the head earlier, where Godzilla and Kong films are more so monster fights. Like if you look at even the 2005 King Kong film, the action sequences are like, the one that comes to mind is when Kong is battling three Rexes. That's more of a monster duel. Yes. And if you look at Godzilla, I mean, if you look at even from the 50s to now, it's more so monster fights, whether it's King Ghidorah or the mutated bats from 14. I don't remember the names, to be honest with you. but yeah, it's more so a monster fight with those sort of films, whereas Jurassic Park is a little bit more intimate, and that's actually what I'd like to see more in the Jurassic World films, specifically Dominion, because I feel like they're turning into a King Kong. It's like, what do you got in a King Kong? It's like, well, you kind of do now. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I do think that they're fun, but they can be handled better. And I think with Colin Trevorrow talking to Laura Dern, talking to Sam Neill, talking to Jeff Goldblum about their characters, and those three giving their own opinions on what their characters should be like. And I feel like that's really cool, because that signals that Colin Trevorrow is very self-aware of where the franchise is going and how they treat these characters and these animals in the right way, respectively, in Dominion.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Just the idea that you can't just have monsters fighting each other, just like Rock'em Sock'em Robots. You look at Pacific Rim, you have these giant robots versus these giant monsters, which, I mean, it's entertaining, but that's not what Jurassic films are. It's much deeper than that. And I think it really has to do with what you were saying earlier, animalistic. It's all about animals living out their lives, and then when they're faced with a threat, they're going to, you get to see how they're going to react and how unique a dinosaur reacts compared to other animals that we might see with us alive today, like lions and tigers and such. And so you get to see chaos. I think the main idea here is chaos. That not only is a huge effect of the story, but it's also important for the action. There's something about animalistic nature, like not being able to expect what the action is going to be. It's not just going to be people punching each other, giant monsters punching each other. It's more of this animal is going to try to come around you. Velociraptors, they come from multiple directions and are pack hunters. The Tyrannosaurus Rex uses its jaws to clamp onto you. And you get to see all these different aspects of that within the Jurassic action. But then to move on and to get to our last question, and this is actually very important for the future of Jurassic projects. How can the action in future Jurassic projects evolve to present new action sequences?
Yeah, so I mean, fast forwarding off of or leaping towards post Dominion, I do feel like they can improve the action sequences, but I just want to go back to your last point about how animalistic the dinosaurs are in the previous films. I feel like they can be a lot more intimate heading into Dominion, sort of mirroring like an Alien 1 or Predator 1, where it was a lot more intimate with the deaths rather than. And I think actually the Lost World is a good example, even though it was one scene of the long grass scene where it was a bunch of velociraptors attacking the hunters. But if they can do that moving forward, I think that would be a great thing. There's a movie that I'm forgetting the name of with Natalie Portman and Oscar Isaac, but it dealt with a monster figure, and it was just that monster. And I feel like if you move forward with Jurassic Park, and if you just have one, either if it's a big bad or velociraptor or Dilophosaurus, whatever it is, that looming threat, making it scary, and how nature will eventually prevail. And that's what life finds a way is. Life will nature will eventually prevail no matter what. Even if you make a hybrid, look what happened. The T-Rex and blue, nature actually succeeded. The Mosasaurus. Right. So I feel like I just want to see humans be bad guys again. I really do. And good bad guys, because then that will set up good action sequences. Because Mills, Hoskins, I thought they were really entertaining, especially Hoskins. Yes. But if you get a really good villain like a Nedry or a Ludlow, I do feel like the action sequences will be earned, and I think that they will be not necessarily nostalgic, but a throwback in the best way possible. Right. Moving the story forward.
And the thing, I completely agree with you. And the thing about Nedry and Ludlow, to quickly touch upon their characters, is the fact that they are people, they're just regular people that are driven by greed. So you get to see how real people become the bad guys. Whereas with Hoskins and Mills, they're driven by their own nefarious wants. And now, of course, it is personal greed, but they come across as almost more villainous in nature. You can automatically peg them as being bad guys, whereas with
kind of one-dimensional. Yeah.
Exactly. And Nedry and actually, no, sorry, specifically Ludlow. I mean, yeah, you can make the excuse that Ludlow is supposed to be seen as a bad guy from the beginning too, but like he's a guy trying to make a buck, and he might
for engine. Yeah.
For engine, exactly. And so like he's trying to do his job. And he does come across as just like the greedy, money-grubbing guy, but in the best way possible. But as far as like the evolution of Jurassic projects, I think that the biggest evolution that we've seen so far, and unfortunately it's been a long time, I think not the biggest one, but the best evolution of action sequences we've seen so far was from the first movie to the second movie was that trailer being pushed off of a cliff. That was probably the most innovative and one of the craziest leaps forward in action sequences that we've seen in a lot of cinema, but specifically with Jurassic Park's series, because it involved the chaos element, the dinosaurs being there, pushing the cart off, pushing the trailer off of the cliff, led to this trickle down effect, which then led to I'm sorry, why can't I remember the guy's name that died?
Oh, Eddie.
Thank you. Yeah. Led to Eddie coming, trying to save them. In the process of trying to save them, ends up dying, and then it's just a huge process where it's like, oh, that's so Jurassic. And I feel like we haven't had that much of an evolutionary step with the action sequences in Jurassic yet. So something that I really want to see that would be an evolution is seeing how dinosaurs aren't just the end-all be-all for action and chaos, but that what they cause leads to incredible action sequences. And so,
it's that butterfly effect, yeah.
Exactly. I want to see more of that chaos. But I think that's all that we've got. That's all the time that we've got for today here, Matt. I think we really did extrapolate this well. And is there any last words that we have from you that you want to say to everybody?
Yeah. I mean, thank you so much for having me on Dino Park Media. It's always a blast. And I know Jurassic Park right now is a little dry in news, but I do feel like that with Dino Park Media filling us in and Colin Trevorrow keep, teasing us, I feel like we can really expect the best in Dominion. And I mean that in the best way possible, because it'll be well worth the wait, especially come summertime. So Jurassic Park time is just be a little patient, and we're going to get a lot of news. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
excited.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm excited too, man. And thank you for your kind words. And everybody, thank you so much for watching this video, watching it all the way through. If you want to check out Matt Heuel's fan page on Instagram, it's called Site B. Isla Sorna at Site _B. It's on screen here. You can go check him out on Instagram. But guys, we are almost 100 subscribers. Go ahead and click that subscribe button if you want to support this channel. And before you go, have a great rest of your day and know you are loved.